Today we're going to be working on another lab video. We are going to be talking about accumulation, withdrawals, and sort of schedules. So first thing, make sure you create a title page. Just make sure it includes your lab name, which is at the top, your name, date, and course. We can title that as cover page. Sheet 2, we'll just write problem 1. Let me zoom in here just a little bit. Okay. So problem 1 says a sample situation involving a future value of an ordinary annuity. So it says Fred Jones plans to deposit $1,000 at the end of each quarter into an account that pays 8% annually and then compounded quarterly. What will be the value at the account at the end of the fourth quarter or the fourth payment? So to answer the question above, which is given the future value of an ordinary annuity, the template below here is to compute this value constructed in steps A to C. Be sure to distinguish between labels, input data, and formulas to do these calculations. So it says start with a clean worksheet, which we have here, and enter the following data. So steps B and C complete the template. Note that each is a series of deposits called P. So R denoted in cell A4. Okay, so we will type this as problem 1, FB to accumulate. We have PMT, RMT, M times T, and R divided by M. FB formula, and then just FB. So first thing, I want to just kind of orient everything, make sure it's in Times New Roman, because I like that format, and kind of push it over a little bit. All right, PMT, it says we have $1,000 that we are going to be depositing at the end of each quarter. We have an annual interest rate of 8%, so 0.08, compounded quarterly, and over 1 year, so over just through the 4 payments. So we have M times T, so we equal M times T here. And then R divided by M, so equals your R divided by your M here. It says in cell B11, type the formula for ordinary annuity, but rather than type these values, select the cell. So we are going to be selecting the cells in order to continue with this formula right here. So it says we'll do the first one together. So it says equals, it says B4. So here, that is referencing your payment, times, and we always need the times button or the asterisk symbol. Now we need to open up a few parentheses. In our case, we're going to open up 3 to start. Then we have 1 plus, and that's going to be this 1 plus here. R over M, that is found in B10. Close parentheses, raise it to the M times T, which is B8, minus 1 to follow here. And we're going to close your parentheses. And each time you close it, you'll notice that it flashes. Divided by R over M, which again is going to be divided by B10. Here, close your parentheses and then hit enter. And again, this being a monetary value, I might scoot this over and make it some sort of accounting. Same thing over here, counting. So I want 2 decimal places. There we go. It says now in cell B12, we want to compute the total amount directly. So enter in the following formula. So it says equals FB. Now, the difference between the two is that we actually used the equation that we had learned in class, and now Excel is going to do the equation for us. So there's just 2 different ways that we can calculate some of these. So it says rate. Now rate is going to be referring to this rate per compounding period. So we're going to type in B10, comma, and then it says N per period. That is your compounding period times your time. So over how many periods or how many in total are we going to have? Your P. Now we also going to be kind of cash flow out. So we are going to do a negative sign. That way it avoids having our dollar value being negative. Now when it says PV and type, so you can hit enter, which I don't have it here, but we have 0 for PV. We don't have anything starting out. And then you hit type, when you hit type, right here, when you click on type, usually it tells us, but usually it'll tell us to either put a 0 or a 1. 0 will be at the end, 1 will be at the beginning of each period, so we could put a 0. Now, because it is both a 0, notice that our parentheses here just, it backs it up and then we just end it. That is perfectly fine to do. But just know that if we did have a payment or if it was compounded at the beginning of each month, we could actually say that in our formula. Go ahead and hit enter. Now, these two should be the exact same, which again, I might go ahead and highlight our answer. It should be the exact same. So then it says in a text box, what is the value of an account at the end of the fourth quarter or the fourth payment? Let's go ahead and insert a text box and insert one down here. Okay, what is the value in account at the end the fourth payment? And again, make sure you are using context. So bring meaning to this dollar amount using what we have from above. A lot of that can be just restated from the very beginning of your question. So part B, it says, what will be the value at the end of the account of the third quarter or the third payment? So it's hard to see the exact amount going into the account at the end of each payment over the duration of time. In order to determine how much is in the account after each payment, we need to develop a payment period schedule. So in cell D2, type period. So we're going to go up here to D2 and we're going to type in the word period. And below in cell D3 to D6 are the numbers 1 through 4. These are representing your 4 compounding periods here. So if we had more than 4, if we are compounding every month, we would do 12. If it was daily, 365, weekly, 52, that sort of thing. So it's just referring to how many periods are we compounding. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So then it says now to calculate the amount after each quarter has grown. So in cell E2, we're going to type in ending balance. In cell E3, we're going to type in the formula B4. There we go. It says equals B4 here. Now this should be our very first payment, and that should make sense if we are making a payment into the account right after the first quarter. We are putting in $1,000. That is your deposit. Now in cell E4 here, it says type in the formula below. It says equals E3, the one previous, so the payment that we had before, plus E3 once more. Now this is going to be multiplied by B10, and you'll notice that we have a dollar amount here. Oops, a dollar amount, or not a dollar amount, but a dollar sign locking in between your B and the 10. This will keep this value here from shifting, so it'll constantly use your rate per compounding period. So we're going to multiply the balance previous to your compounding rate, and then we are going to then add that to one more time. Oops. Add that to one more payment, not the right one. Add that to the payment. So, and again, we want to block that value in dollar amount. Go ahead and hit enter. It says this formula copies the deposit at the end of the first quarter. So here, that's at the very beginning, the end of the first quarter, E3, from cell B4, and adds the interest on the balance together along with the other payment. So again, at the very end, we did it along with the other payment. So the dollar sign allows us to lock in your cell, and then freely we can then go ahead and scroll down. So in cell E5 and E6, we can go ahead and copy this formula just by waiting for that little black plus sign to come down, and we could just pull it down. You'll notice that here at the very end, has that same amount, which would make sense, right? That is how much your future value is at the end of the 4 quarters that we're depositing within that 1 year. And if we wanted to do at the end of 3 years, right, then you would obviously extend this portion out to 12 periods in total. So if we're trying to um, answer our question, right, in an existing text box, answer the question posed above. B, what will the value of the account be at the end of the 3rd quarter? Now, what's nice about this setup is that you can see how much is going into the account at the end of each period or at the end of each quarter. Whereas at the very end, within this full portion of part A, we don't know what has been compounded each quarter. But by putting in some sort of a schedule, we can actually see the balance at the end of each period. Now, I like to center everything. So I'm going to probably do that before I move everything. And again, maybe do the page layout. I want my margins to be narrow. And orientation, everything is kind of up and down, so portrait is perfectly fine. Okay. And that says the goal of the remainder of the lab is to build and use a template for calculating amortization loan payments and to construct a schedule for the loan. You can also compare the loan with a simple interest loan. So that's kind of the remainder of our lab here today. So problem 2. So suppose you obtain a 4-year car loan for $12,000 at 9.4 annual interest. What are your monthly payments? How much total interest do you have? And how much interest do you pay for the first year? The answer to the questions will be from the worksheet constructed in A to B. So build the worksheet indicated below. Notice that it has 3 sections, one for assumptions and one for calculations, and then the table. So it's just right here. So let's go ahead and copy this. And it says problem 1 at the top. It really should say problem 2. So we have loan amount, rate, compounding period, time, rate per period, total number of payments, PMT, full cost, and then total interest. Now, all of this is doing, like all of this written stuff, is just all of the stuff that we had been doing before. So your deposits, your rate, your compounding period, your time, your rate per compounding period, your total number of payments, your full cost, that sort of thing. And all that is that it's just kind of written out versus given some sort of a little formula. So let's go ahead and enter in what we have so far. So we know that we have $12,000 given to us from your loan. So that is your present value. We have your rate of 0.094. We talked about having monthly payments. So we'll do the compounding period as 12. And we are talking about a 4-year car loan. So that should be 4. Now, when it says your rate per period, so we're taking your rate, dividing it by the compounding period that we have. The total number of payments is your period times your time. Now, at no point do we need this many decimal places. I'm going to scooch this down just a little bit. Okay. So now when it says payment, what we could do is type in your equation that we learned from previous, right? We have your present value. We are interested in trying to find your future value, or sorry, your payments for the loan. Or what we could do is, just as before, use the built-in program into Excel. So we can write PMT. And it's nice because it already tells us what we're doing, and we'll walk us through. It says your rate. Your rate is the rate per period, just as before, comma, and per period is just the total number of payments, comma. And then your present value is just your loan amount, but we're going to do the negative sign to show it's the cash flow out. And then we don't have your future value. We don't know what that quite is. And then we're going to assume that these are at the end of each period. So again, both of these would be 0, or you can delete and then just put parentheses as it's showing here. So we're making $300 payments, just about. Now your full cost is going to be equal to your payment times the total number of payments. So at the very end, we're going to have a full cost of $14,000, or a little bit more than $14,000. Now, as always, when we calculate your total interest, we're always taking your full cost, right? Your future value minus your loan amount. So in interest alone, we just had to pay a little more than $2,000. Now let's see for this next part, we're going to highlight A14 to F14. So right here, I'm going to merge in center, and then I'm going to black it out just a little bit. So I'm going to probably use a darker gray color. And then I'm going to write amortization schedule. So now let's see what this looks like. Now, if you want to kind of add some extras, you could put in a border along the outside of that schedule, up to you. Now, when it says payment number, these are the amount of payments that we're making through the whole duration, the total number of payments. So we should have at the end 48 different payments. We also have PMT, which is the amount of payment, which you'll see down here, which maybe that's what I do in the beginning. So equals the one above it, A17 plus 1. It's okay that there's nothing above because 0 plus 1 is just going to be the first payment. Now your payment, PMT, we just said was equal to this $300 amount, which again, we want to lock in. That payment is not going to change unless we are told it will. Maybe our first payment is a little bit different. Then it says your interest, let's see, in period. Your interest in your period is equal to E17, which there's nothing in here currently, and that's okay. We're still going to click it, times, and then we're going to take that value, which E17 is talking about your unpaid balance. So we are looking at, okay, what is left over to pay for these payments? So we're going to multiply that by the rate per period. And again, we want to lock in this rate per period. We don't want that number shifting around, so we'll put dollar signs around it. And I actually did E18, and it should be E17. I'm going to change that ever so slightly. Then it says balance reduction, because we are making payments, which if you're paying something, paying off a value or paying off a loan, your balance should end up being reduced at some increment. So we're going to take B18. So B18, taking your payment, and then we're subtracting out C18. C18 right here. Subtracting out your interest in that period. Then next we have your unpaid balance. So this is equal to B4 here. You'll notice just by putting that in, that does allow us to change the interest per period or interest in the period, because it is just taking this loan amount and then we're adjusting it with the rate per period. Now, when it comes to your unpaid balance, we're going to take E17. We're going to take your unpaid balance and then subtract out the amount that you have then paid into it. So we should see D18. So you still have a lot of money to go that is still left to be paid. Then we have interest accumulated. That says equals F17. So again, the value above it, the cell above it does not have anything. That's okay. It's just saying, okay, I'm just took out this loan. Nothing has started yet, so I don't have any interest affecting it quite yet. plus C18, which is the interest gained in that first period. And that should make sense. Now I'm going to center everything before I move along too far. And I want everything centered. I want this to be a dollar amount and another dollar amount. There we go. So now it says, so we actually did this part. And then all we have to do is now just drag each cell down. And it says the table in cell A15 to F65, which I'm going to show you here, is called the amortization table or schedule. Notice that your payment function computes the payments to be made during each period and that the total interest is obtained by subtracting the loan amount from the full cost. So let's go ahead and bring this down all the way to A65. And you'll notice A65, once we get there, is 48. This is the same number as the total number of payments that we are making in full. Now, with your payment option, right, we'll do the same thing. We'll drag and drop. And we just said that this value here, that this payment, maybe I do that in yellow, this payment will again not change unless it's telling us to do so at the very beginning, which I just dragged way too far down. So you'll notice that is not changing. The interest earned in your period, again, once more, we'll drag it down. You'll notice that these will change through the duration of the schedule. And there isn't anything here quite yet because, again, this cell relies on the unpaid balance. Again, same thing with this reduction. Ooh, I keep doing that. Drop. And again, this hasn't changed yet, but it will. One more time, and we'll just take each of these, drag and drop. Notice just by dropping here, it'll therefore change. And notice at the very end, it should have 0, 0, and that is because it's your unpaid balance. You started with your loan amount, right? You're trying to pay off this $12,000, and that is exactly what you did down here on your 48th payment. Let's see what your accumulated interest is all the way down here. And there you go. And what do you notice about your accumulated interest? Well, that should match the interest from here above. And there you have it. That should be it. And there you go. And again, I might highlight one more, maybe this orange to kind of show you this loan amount here. And that should just be about it. So let's see what your discussion questions were asking. And I want to make one more adjustment. I'm going to make this a dollar amount as well. Okay, so it says, in a text box, answer the questions posted in the sample problem using the worksheet developed in the template. Write the answer as if you were explaining it to your boss. So A, what are your monthly payments? B, how much total interest do you pay? And C, how much interest do you pay in the first year? And make sure you're bringing context to some of your answers as much as you can. Give detail as to what you're doing. So let's go ahead and just make sure everything is set up. So when we go to print, so again, this is for page layout. Let's make sure your margins are narrow. And again, a lot of our orientation is up and down, so we don't need to do any sort of landscape. But you'll notice that we are going to cut off a little bit of your text box here. So when I move it over here, you'll notice that I might want to do one of two things. I might want to just center these things. When I go down as well, you'll notice that it is cut off. Now I could, if I wanted to, highlight the area that I want to be included in some sort of a print. Where is it? There we go. So notice that everything that I want to be highlighted is, and then I could set my print area here, set print area, so that when I hit Control P or Command P, it should pop up, although for my computer, it did not do it. So let me try that one more time. Maybe I just didn't like this text box. One more time. Let's see if it'll let me do it this time. My computer is glitching a little bit. Usually it works, but let's say yours is like mine. It's not fitting onto one page. A different route you could take is when you hit Control P, after fitting everything to narrow margins, what we can do is have everything set on one page. Let me try that one more time. It usually allows me to do it on my desktop. Fit to scale. There we go. So just by clicking fit to scale, it'll put everything on that one page. I might want to move over my text box just so that I do have that there as well, because notice that it's not including my text box. So I can see if I'll move that over here. Or what I could do is I could, if it's still not working, put this on a separate page and then print that out separately. Let's see if that's working again. And then one more time. There you go. So you'll notice it got a little bit better. It did come over, but perhaps we just need it to go all the way at the very bottom. I definitely need the whole schedule to be printed off. Maybe right here, one more time. Again, there's nothing stopping you from putting this on a separate sheet as well. Okay. No, it's fine. Yeah, so it looks like for mine, I'm not sure why my computer is not letting me do it. But what I probably would do if you're seeing that as well is just move my text box to a different sheet and then print off that sheet, or just print this one off separately by just tapping on it and then hitting Control Print or Control P. Now let's go ahead and going through the next one. So it says edit your margins, save, make sure you are saving. Now copy the template from page 2 into a new sheet and make suitable changes beginning on the new problem. So let's go ahead and open a new sheet. Problem 3. I'm going to copy everything here. And I'm going to paste right where we had it. Okay, so all you're going to do, and I'm going to walk you through not so much this problem, because all we're doing is making little changes and cutting off part of your schedule just to fit this problem. So it says, suppose you obtain an amortized loan of $18,000. So we have $18,000 for 3 years and an annual interest of 9%. Compounded monthly, so that one can stay. Notice that by doing that, we do have some slight changes to make. Now, I'm taking a look at your total number of payments, right? We have 36. Ours is going to go all the way down to, from previously, 48. Now, conveniently, when you do look over, does that quite make sense to have these negative values? Not so much. So we are going to have to trim just a little bit in order to make other values match. And again, what I might do, one more time, there we go, is to just highlight some things that kind of coincide that they should match to values that are seen from above. Okay. Delete all those, and perhaps I make everything else no fill. Now let's take a look at some of your questions here. So it says find monthly payments, and I'll move this over here. So find monthly payments and total interest paid on the loan. Let's see, B is use the table to determine the total interest paid during each year of the loan. That is the interest paid in year 1, year 2, and year 3. You can use the table that's over here. And lastly, there's 4 parts in this problem. Suppose your first loan payment is 101308 instead of the value found in part A. What is your balance after this payment? How much interest does it save? And D, suppose you negotiate a 1/4% reduction. So your rate is going to reduce by 1/4 in the loan rate. How much would you save on each payment? And again, I'm not going to walk you through these questions on how to answer them. That is for you guys to work on. We're just walking you through how to set up each problem. And again, I'm going to change this to problem 3. Everything else should coincide pretty nicely. Let's go on to problem 4. So problem 4, it says, suppose a 3-year loan of $18,000 at 9% annual interest rate is simple interest loan payable in 36 equal installments. Enter the appropriate values in B3 to B6. So I might actually go back here. Let's see, compounding period. Oh, no, I might not just copy and paste. I'll do it differently. So problem 4, we have your loan amount, rate per year, terms, total number of payments. Come on, payment. There we go. FB, PMT, and INT. So what we are asked to find in some sort of a text box is A, find the monthly payments for this loan. Note you are making 36 equal installments. So explain how you came to this conclusion or came to this value. B says, how much total interest is saved on an $18,000 loan using the amortized loan plan in problem 3 instead of the simple interest plan. So again, this is something that you're going to have to compare to problem 3, your answers. So again, I'm not going to set these up because I think this one is pretty straightforward. We are talking about simple interest, so we're not making any sort of compounding periods. However, we do have 36 equal installments. So that does come into play when it talks about your payment. So hopefully that part you guys can work on by yourself. And let's see, just make sure that you guys are changing your margins, make sure they're nice and narrow. You'll notice that by doing that, I've noticed that I'm going to cut off that table here. So I'm going to move it a little bit. And I don't think I did that here as well. So again, narrow. That does cut this one off. I'm just going to scoot it to over here. And again, kind of doing it all at once. It does get cut off here, but perhaps now is a good time to show you how I would normally approach something like this. So make sure you are saving your work. Now I'm just going to go ahead and try to print this off all at once. So you'll have your cover page. I'll just put cover page 0, something like that. Again, you can kind of copy and paste. So when I go ahead and hit Command P, right, you'll have your cover page. You want to swap it to entire workbook. And then from there, I like to kind of click through and just make sure that everything looks nice and sound. So you'll notice that everything is on one page there. Here looks good, but keep in mind, I did need an extra text box. Again, there looks okay. I might fit to scale that one. I might hit cancel here after recognizing that this one is likely going to need that same adjustment. So when I go ahead and individually hit Control P, I want to do fit to scale. There we go. And you'll notice that by doing that, I hate how this thing is right in the way, that all of that comes up. This would also be a good place to perhaps do the print area as well. What I mean by that, oops, too much. When I go ahead and highlight the area that I'd like to print, I can go ahead and hit select print area. Now, one thing I might adjust is making this a little bit more narrow. That way my print area isn't so wonky. There we go. That print area. But when I do it one more time, it should all come up. There we go. So again, some options to you guys are available here. Not so much of an issue. It's really just my problem too that I'm having trouble getting up on here. Maybe when I do, let's see, perhaps instead of doing a set print area, I'll clear this print area and maybe just when I look at my margins one more time, even if I changed it to landscape, it should show you some sort of a cut off. And move that. Margins. No, I want orientation portrait. Normal. Perhaps there. Okay. Yeah. Notice, maybe I don't do the fit to scale. That way I can see everything. It's okay if it is a little bit cut off, if that is, like I won't dock points for this portion being cut off. If you could get it to fit to scale, and maybe I just transfer this, because you'll notice right here, perhaps I open up just a different sheet and put my answer there. Sheet 2, maybe I do this. Copy this portion. There we go. That way, maybe I can go ahead and delete that. And then I can fit this portion into one sheet. That might be actually the best option when I do fit to scale. That way I see all of my answers. It's nice to see, and then my next page will have my answer, like all of my listed answers. So let's go ahead and hit one more time, entire workbook. So cover page looks good. That's fine. Fine. That is cut off, so I might want to make a little adjustment on that one. I was just moving a little bit too quickly. That looks fine, and that looks fine. So this would be really good. So then when I'm ready, I'm just going to hit PDF, save as a PDF. Mine takes, my computer always takes me a minute, but label it as you would and then save it to somewhere where you're in need. And that's going to be the end of our video today.